This is Peter, and you're listening to the Night Party Podcast. I hope you enjoy it, because I don't.
That's right. And hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Night Party Podcast, where we leave it all on the cutting room floor. I'm, of course, your illustrious host, Zach Evergreen. With me today, again, hopefully for a lot more episodes, too, we have Antonius Morgan in the house. Say hi, Antonius.
Heck yeah, how's it going, everybody?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing swell.
Here to talk about a fantastic film. And, real quick, though, remember, if you're not already a member, join our Patreon at patreon.com/nightpartypod, where you get all these episodes early and often. And also, you're going to get a lot of our bonus materials, our watch-alongs, our Slime Wreck radios that I've brought back.
Heck yeah, dude.
So we're doing Slime Wreck radio quite often, once every 2 weeks. So that's pure old school Opie and Anthony, no bullshit, just talking shit, but try to stay away from politics, obviously, radio.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hang. You're supposed to crack a beer with us, and it's like hanging out with your friends, you know? So, we're going to get into this movie in just a second. Also, too, shoot me an email. I haven't got one in a while, and that's nightpartypod@yahoo.com. So, let's go ahead and start story time, shall we? So, you just got to remember that, the events portrayed in this film are all true. The names are all real, and they're real people, and also real organizations, which is pretty interesting because obviously that is not the case. So this whole movie takes place on July 4th weekend, right? So everyone is trying to GTFO to go party, right? You know, but unfortunately for our protagonists, Freddie and Frankie, well, Frankie is showing Freddie the ropes. He's showing him around this warehouse this warehouse called UNITA. Mm-hmm. And UNITA is, they have like cadavers for ballistics for the U.S. military.
Right.
Right. And they have like a bunch of skeletons for high schools. And they even have like dissected dogs and stuff for veterinarians. So basically, if it's dead and it's scientific and we can learn from it,
They got it.
They got it. Now, so the part that gets kind of weird is, they're packing up a skeleton, and Frankie says to Freddie, "Hey, did you ever notice something about these skeletons?" And he goes, "What?" And he goes, "They all have perfect teeth."
Yeah.
And he's like, "We get them all from India." So do you think there's like an India teeth farm, or do you, and it's just kind of weird. And that's what makes Freddie get like a little like, interesting. So they're sitting down and he's looking through some books and we get this scene, and this is our opening scene. Are you ready? I think if I press this button, it'll work. Let's see.
Let's see.
Let's see.
I think it'll work. There it is.
Kid, I have seen weird things come, and I have seen weird things go. But the weirdest thing I ever saw just had to cap it all.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah. That's the one where the corpses start eating the people, right? Sure. What about it?
Did you know that movie was based on a true case?
Oh, come on, you're shitting me, right?
I ain't never been more serious in my life.
That's not possible. I mean, they showed zombies taking over the world.
Well, they changed it all around. What really happened was, back in 1969 in Pittsburgh at the VA hospital, there was a chemical spill, and all that stuff kind of leaked down into the morgue, and it made all the dead bodies kind of jump around as though it was alive.
What chemical?
2,4,5-trioxin, it's called. It was to kind of spray on marijuana or something, and the Darrow Chemical Company was trying to develop it for the Army. And they told the guy who made the movie that if he told the true story, they'd just sue his ass off. So he changed all the facts around.
So what really happened?
Well, they closed it all down, see? And the Army shipped all that contaminated dirt and all those dead bodies out. And they kept it a secret.
So how come you know about it?
What typical Army fuck-up. The transportation department got the orders crossed. And they shipped those bodies here instead of to the Darrow Chemical Company. Hello?
I knew that was coming. So, this actually makes a lot of sense. First off, our government fucks up a lot of shit.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I mean, my grandfather still gets mail about registering to vote. Right? So, anyway, but they are having these cadavers they use for, like I said, for ballistics training, right? So, meaning if you donate your body to science, it might be tested for the next 50 caliber rifle. So that's exactly what ballistics training is, right?
Right.
So, but they accidentally sent over these barrels. Now, he's going to go show him these barrels, but Foist, we get introduced to our punkers. Now, remember, it's 4th of July weekend. They want to party, and they're like, hey, man, what do you want to do? Like, where are we going to go party? And, they got their boombox and their beer, and they're all walking, and they're like, oh, Freddie always knows where a place to party. Yeah, but he's got this new job. Fuck it. We'll go hang out somewhere and wait till he gets off, right? So Suicide steals a car. Now, we don't see him stealing a car, but they have a stolen car, clearly, because it's all beat to shit. It's vandalized. There's no way that's...
Yeah, like Suicide is like spray painted his name on the front hood and everything.
He's such a badass. And they're listening to the Misfits.
Yeah.
So they pull up to this graveyard to kill some time. Now, the graveyard is adjacent to this
the medical supply.
Yeah. So if we were to fly a drone over this this fictional town, there would be a graveyard that separates the medical supply to the crematorium / church.
Right.
The funeral home. So, they go there and they're partying, they're having a good time, you know what I mean? And we kind of get like introduced to all of them in a way, but we're going to cut away now and we're going to see Frankie and Freddie, and they're walking down. Now, this is very important. Frankie goes, watch that third step.
Yeah.
That's some foreshadowing right there, baby.
A little bit.
So, he goes down and he opens up. So these barrels, they have like a glass, like...
Well, they have like a metal lid.
Uh-huh.
But when you pop it open, it's like a glass window.
Yeah.
To see the body inside.
And you actually see like a mummy with its eyes closed kind of looking thing.
Right.
And he's like, no way, these are real. Are they safe? And he goes, of course they're safe. This is American ingenuity. And he slaps the side and you see gas just come out, right? And that's our title screen. Now, remember, in case of a zombie emergency, okay, call this number, 1-800-454-8000. That's 1-800-454-8000. So that's what it says on the side.
Right.
I just thought I'd write it down. In fact, do you want to give it a call on the air?
No.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'll call it later.
We're going to have with like some psychic person. Yeah.
Or maybe porn. But
all right, let's call it.
Yeah, let's call it. So, now we cut to like this military colonel and his wife's like, how was your day? And he's like, yeah, it sucked. Like, and she goes like, do you want lamb chops or meatloaf, whatever? And he goes, I had it for lunch. And she's like, how long do we have to be here? So they're in a certain part of, I think it's California, but it's West Coast.
Right.
And he's stuck here because he actually has the football, if you will, like the launch codes for a missile silo. But we don't know that yet. But we do see him checking in. He opens up like a whiskey cabinet, like a liquor cabinet.
Right.
And you see like all this computer stuff. And and like, he gets on the radio and he goes, checking in, this and that. And she's like, well, how long do we have to be here? Because I guess she wants to move or they want to retire. And he goes, however long it takes till we recover those barrels.
Right.
So now we're like, oh, okay, so the military isn't that dumb. They lost it. Someone dropped the ball, but they're constantly looking for it.
Right.
Now, remember, they say that they've been looking for these barrels for 20 years.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there was no GPS.
Right.
But one would think in 20 years, you'd be able to follow all the supply chains and knock on some dude's door. Hey, did you get some barrels that you're not supposed to have, asshole? Right? Can we check the serial number on that tanker?
Yeah.
So, Now, the punkers are there, as I said, but and you see them now. It's getting kind of nightfall, and we'll get into all their crazy shenanigans in a minute. I just want you to keep them in mind. So they've been there for a minute. They're killing time. Now, Frankie and Freddie are like, they just wake up. They get a face full of this gas.
Right.
Right? And they're woken up, and they hear like a dog barking. It's a noise, and they're like, what the fuck is that? And they notice there's a bisected dog. So it's cut like from head to tail, straight down the middle.
Right.
And this is for like veterinarian stuff. And the dog is like, and it's super fucking creepy.
It's incredibly weird.
It is very weird. And this is like the first what the fuck moment of many to come. Right. And anyway, then we hear like screaming and pounding on the freezer door where they keep the medical cadavers for the ballistics training, right? And I mean screaming, like not like brains, but like just full on Karen mode when she got her order wrong at the KFC, right? Just, like no holds barred, and like you see the master lock thing just bump up, and now they don't know what to do, and they're panicking, they're yelling at each other. Now they do look a bit pale and sweaty.
Yes.
But not as much as we're going to see them raisin as this. We're going to see them pickle, if you will, as this goes on. Right?
Yeah.
So they don't know what to do. Now, Bert, their boss, just left. And he's like, all right, well, hold down the fort. Now he gets called back in and he's kind of pissed. He's like, what the fuck, man? What'd you guys do? And he's worried about his livelihood.
Right.
And as is Frankie, because they've been there for a minute. They're old timers. And they don't want to have to call the government like, hey, we've had these things for a while, because it's going to be all bad.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't want to call the hospital or the, police. So they're like, what do we do? So they're like, well, fuck. What should we do? Maybe we'll dispose of it ourselves.
Which is what any sensible person would do, I think.
Right. So now we cut back to this cemetery, and we actually get to know our punkers, right? So the Misfits metalhead meathead guy, right? That's Suicide, and he's got like a fucking wallet chain the size, like the thickness is the size of a quarter.
Like wallet chains. He's got some chains going across his chest. He's got a chain going from like his
ear
nose.
to his nose.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest chain, too. And every time I see it, I'm like, man, I hope that thing was made out of plastic. Now, I don't know if they hired real punkers or not, but when I look through the IMDb, all these guys are nameless. They haven't been in almost anything else.
Anything at all. Yeah.
Except for the exception of one guy. And he doesn't even basically have a line in his. He's the kind of tough-looking punker that never talks.
Yeah.
He was not a stuntman, but he was in like commercials or something like that. Nothing like really you would know of. But yeah. Anyway, almost everybody in here is almost unknown with the exception of Frank and Ernie.
Yeah.
And Bert. All those guys were in tons of movies that I didn't even recognize, but they're all known for this movie. And some of them did like 100 movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, just pictures we never saw or grew up with, but they were actually, for this time, established actors.
Yeah. Okay.
Just way different genre. Like they would do like that black and white kind of old school movies. Because remember, these are older gentlemen.
Right.
They were young and good looking at one time, so they were in like, feature films that my grandparents probably used to watch. Let's see what else. We have the deaths of sexually liberated trash who I don't know if I hate her or if I love her. I really don't.
I think she's pretty awesome.
She is awesome.
She's just her.
Take
it or leave it.
Yeah, there she goes. And then we have Spider, who's my favorite. And he's got like this kind of like feathered mullet, and he's like a skinny black dude. And anyway, and then the rest are basically just red shirts,
Yeah.
Except for Tina, she has kind of something, but no one else really. There's the nerdy guy, and then there's this other punker chick, right? And they only really interact with each other later on in the film. They don't really do anything. So, anyway, when they're sitting there, Trash is just going like, what do you think would be the worst way to die? I think it would be if all these old men were just all over me and biting me and clawing at me. And she gets hot. She starts getting all horned up, And she goes, fuck it, I'm going to dance on some graves and mausoleums.
Yeah.
And Spider's cheering her on, and he's like, yeah, and then all the other girls are like, really? Again? But all the dudes are up for it. Now, again, remember, when I first saw this movie, I'm like, looking around, like at my mom, like, is this okay? Like, and then at the same time, I'm like, wait a minute, what kind of movie are we watching here?
Yeah.
Like, is this gonna get like dirty or what? Because it goes from like, oh, here's a kind of hot scene, especially when you're 11, to here goes a horrifying scene.
Yeah.
You know, so like, yeah, it's kind of all over the place, right? So we go back to Unita, right? And Bert's flipping out, and he doesn't know really what to do. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to take care of the zombie ourselves.
Yeah.
So they don't know what it is. Well, they do call it well, they don't say the Z word, but they go, how did they do it in the movie, the Night of the Living Dead movie? Well, they would hit him in the brain. Okay, cool. So they grab a pickaxe, and they're going to let him out in like 1, 2, 3, right? Bert by the way, he kills 2 zombies in this movie, and no one else damages 1. So even though he's like an old dude, he seems to be the best person at killing zombies. So they fucking just brain this guy, this corpse. He's all yellow because he's been embalmed and such.
Right.
In the back of the head, and it pins him to the floor.
Right.
But he's still moving. And they're like,
yeah, he starts screaming like he's in pain and everything like that. And you're like freaked out, like, I thought that was supposed to kill him.
Exactly.
Like, what is going on?
yeah, but that would be too easy for this movie. So then they're like, okay, what do we do now? I know. Let's dismember it.
Yeah.
So then they dismember. Oh, but first, though, as they brain it in the head, the body gets up and starts running around like all crazy.
Oh, yeah, because they start dismembering. They cut off the head from the body first.
Yeah.
And once they do that, the body just gets up and starts running around again.
Yeah.
They have to like tackle it back down on the
It's
ground.
like, see ya. So they cut it up in all these little pieces, and they're like, what the fuck are we going to do with this corpse? And then Bert goes, oh, let me think. Oh, Ernie's got a crematorium. I guess I can call in a favor. So anyway, Ernie rather, he's a fucking badass, like I said. Dude, we cut to him, and he's got his pipe, and he's got his glasses, and he's got a pot of coffee in the back, armed.
Yeah.
And notice too, he's got a German pistol. He actually wanted that instead of
really?
having like a revolver, because he thought it just at like that, and the pipe gave him like a kind of like a wise kind of character.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was actually his direction. And now they didn't get like a Walter PPK, like the
James Bond gun.
Yeah, the James Bond gun. And they didn't give him the German Mauser because apparently he wanted something he actually could fire.
Oh, okay.
So he actually owned that gun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's like, why don't I just bring my own gun?
Yeah.
That's why he's so comfortable with it. And so Ernie walks in and he goes, hey, I got a problem. I got these weasels, and they were in the front, and they're digging through and they're chewing through shit, and we need to cremate them. And he's like, well, dude, that's pretty inhumane. They're still moving.
Yeah.
Because these bags are like moving. Now, we don't hear it like moaning or anything, but everything's moving around. So it's definitely, not that. There's something afoot.
Yeah.
And Ernie's calling bullshit, right? He's all skeptical and shit. And then one of the parts comes out and grabs Ernie's like pant leg.
Well, they like explained to him like, okay, it wasn't actually weasels. Like it was one of the cadavers, and like Ernie doesn't believe them, so they pull out an arm from the bag, and when they do that, it jumps out and grabs Ernie's leg. And he starts freaking out, like, get it off of me, get it off of me. Ah.
Yeah. And then after that, Ernie's like, oh, shit. Well, I see your dilemma. You're going to fucking owe me big, first off, And so they do end up burning it, and he discusses, he goes, oh, yeah, the hardest thing to get rid of actually is the heart. And he goes, you better get rid of everything, man. Like, we don't want any evidence. Now, there's a funny part here, and I don't know if you noticed this, but it's some foreshadowing.
I think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
Frankie goes, some fucking favor. I could operate that thing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
I definitely noticed that. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of a weird line to put in there. Okay.
Now, here goes the other funny thing. Frankie, the actor that played it, wrote that part in.
Oh, nice.
We'll get to that part later. I forgot to mention it in our fun notes, but now that I'm going over, I'm like, oh, yeah, I should mention that. So they burn this thing up, right? But as they do, we see the gas from the body go through the chimney up into the atmosphere.
Right.
And it reacts to the atmosphere. So, like, within seconds, right? Clouds start to form, and it starts raining like acid rain.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, there's a graveyard right next door.
Mm-hmm.
So we see all the ground getting wet, and all the punkers are like, oh, shit, what the fuck, right? And so the punkers are like, let's get the hell out of here. They start running from the car, or towards the car, rather, and the rain is seeping in the ground, and the car is all fucked up, so they can't drive it, and they try to put up the hard top, but it's just like to no avail. Now we're starting to see like the corpses crawling through the. Well, first you see the water all trickle down. It's a really cool shot.
Yeah.
And then you see it like hitting the feet of like a obviously inside a coffin, and the foot kind of like twitches, and you just see kind of like stirring movement. Now we all know what's going to happen. But it's really cool. They don't just go, boom, here you go. I mean, even though they kind of do, but they don't. But we get to see the zombies rise. And one of the coolest ones is the skeleton with the eyeballs.
Yeah.
That is so awesome, man. But they reuse that shot twice at the end.
They
like
do.
for funniness, but still, either way. Really cool scene. We go back to the crematorium, and now there's like the evidence is disposed of. So now they're like, okay, we could call, because Freddie and Frankie are like sitting there and they're shivering,
Right.
and they don't look good, and they're, like, and they have bags under their eyes, like Marilyn Manson status after a 3-day bender with like cocaine and Johnny Depp, and I don't know, I just thought I was trying to be cute there. So they're all fucked up, right? So they call the paramedics, and the paramedics come over, and they got their stethoscope and they're listening. He's like, you getting anything? He's like, no. And then they check it. And then they switch over, and he's like, I'm still not getting anything. So the two paramedics actually switch to both of the Freddie and Frankie to make sure that like their equipment's not fucking up or they're not crazy. And they're taking their temperature and everything else. And they got those blankets that you always see, and like fire departments always have those wool like giant, yeah. And then he's like, let me talk to you over here. And you see him, like, they're whispering in the corner, and they're, like, scratching their head, like, I don't know what's going on. So they go over, and they're like, yeah, you have no vitals. You're room temperature, but you're moving around. But, I mean, technically, you're dead. And then they start screaming, like, whoa.
You're like, I'm dead? What?
Hey, what the fuck, man? Yeah. Game over, man. Game over. So they don't, they're all like, freaking out over this fact, and they really don't know what to do, and they're not having a good time whatsoever. Now, Tina and one of the punkers in Freddie's group, right? That's like the GF of Freddie,
right?
Is Tina,
yep.
So she's going over to check on Freddie over at UNITA, right? So she heads in there, and when she's there, she's looking around. She's like, Freddie. So I guess the punkers ran to the nearest building after the car wouldn't start, and that would be UNITA. She just shows up first.
Yeah.
And she can't find him, but she notices like the basement door is unlocked. So she goes down. Now, she falls through that stair where he said, watch the third step.
Not yet.
Oh, she doesn't? Oh, my bad.
Not yet.
Okay, you take over then.
All right. So she goes down, steps on the third step. We get a little close-in shot of her foot. Okay, wink, wink.
Yeah.
And then she goes down there, and you get a shot of the barrel that they knocked on, and it's empty.
And sideways, right?
No, it's just empty. Yeah, the glass is broken. It's empty. And she's asking around for Freddie, and then she hears some shuffling, and she pulls back this curtain, and there is
Tarman, and we get that great shot where they do the background getting farther and farther away. That fisheye. I love that shot. And then, of course, we get our tagline of this movie: "Live brains."
Yeah,
right. And she just screams. Now she runs up.
Now
and
she runs back up the stairs as Tarman's chasing her,
shuffling.
Yeah,
it's scary, dude.
And of course, she hits the third step, and bam, goes through. She tries to pull herself back up, and then slips and ends up falling all the way down, and ends up hiding in like a metal like
storage
utility locker sort of thing. Yeah.
And then Tarman is like, "Whatever, bitch. I ain't your average zombie." So he finds a chain and a winch.
Yeah.
And he's like,
just so conveniently in the basement.
Well, I mean, they did have to move those giant barrels around.
Oh, okay, that's true.
I mean, to be fair,
point.
you know.
To be fair.
So he's like, fuck it, I'm going to winch you out, winch. So he starts like, you know, and the way he moves is so creepy.
It's creepy, yeah.
Whenever I mean, you know what this reminded me a lot of? And I just thought of this now. This reminds me of the Curse of the Black Pearl, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
Just by the way they move,
Mm-hmm.
you know how the skeletons move in this one, or in that movie, kind of reminds me of like Tarman.
Interesting.
Just
okay.
I don't know why. I think it's because like one of the reasons why this movie is so scary to me is because, and it's also too. The movie Signs gave me one of the biggest jump scares ever, like when I saw it in the theater, even though it's not a scary movie.
No.
But it's when you see something moving that doesn't look human, like if it's moving kind of like backwards-ish.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, your brain is trying to go, is that an animal? Is that a human? What is it? But when something moves all fucked up like that, like almost reptilian, you know, kind of like how a snake would move, or
Right.
it really just gets to my brain at least. But I know a lot of people, if you move weird, or if you were to even take a film, and they do this a lot for copyright stuff, like on YouTube, for instance, and you flip it around, like you mirror image it, your brain knows. Your brain knows like something's weird about this. You know, it's just, you know, the only time we get fooled with it is looking in a mirror because we've never seen ourselves not in a mirror.
Exactly.
That's why when we see ourselves in picture, we're like, ew. But then when you look in the mirror, you're like, it's not bad. I mean, I don't know. But. So, yeah, Tarman's down here, and, you know, he's making her life, he's terrifying the shit out of her. Now Suicide comes to save the day.
Yeah, they all run down. Yeah, but Suicide, of course, leads the pack.
Yes. And he doesn't save the day.
No, he does not. Yeah, so, like, as they get to the bottom, Tarman is able to use the winch and finally bust the doors off.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Suicide runs in to try and save the day. And Tarman basically just
grabs him by his head and bites off his head.
Just bites a huge chunk out of his head. It's super gnarly.
Now, when I first saw this movie, I'm like, Suicide's going to be a No.
No.
Nah, not happening. Which kind of sucks. But, I mean, I guess he was like so much of a meathead. I mean, dude, there's a scene in this movie that I kind of glossed over when Trash is talking to Suicide, and we kind of get to see his intelligence level, because he's like, no one respects me. Oh, you guys just use me for my car that I stole and da-da-da. And she's practically naked grinding on him.
Basically,
and he's like, and he goes, don't you have respect for the dead? That's really what he says to her. So anyway, no more Suicide. He's gone.
No more, yeah.
So, and anyway, in order to like try to distract Tarman so Tina can get the hell out of here, Spider picks up a can of paint and nails him with it. And Tarman's not phased. He just turns around real quick going, more brains. So they all get out of there. They GTFO, and they shut the door behind him. Like, what the fuck was that, man? You know, and they lock Tarman in there. And but he will be back.
He will.
But just not for a while. Right. So he kind of, it's funny because in a way he is the main well, for now, because I mean, in Trash kind of later is, but we'll get to her in a while.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So now the paramedics, let's see, punkers are, oh yeah. So after that, the punkers are like, we need to go. So not only do they lock them out, they run and they split up.
They do. They run back through the graveyard.
Yeah.
And they end up getting split up while they're running.
Yeah. Now Trash, she's naked and has no shoes.
Yeah.
So she slips in the mud. And she almost, it's manifest destiny in a way, because remember, she said the worst way to die would be have a bunch of old men clawing and biting at her. That's exactly what happens.
Exactly what happens to her.
But they don't brain her.
They don't. It's like an old school zombie. They just like eat her.
Well, kinda. They like, I want to say they more like infect her for whatever reason. Like maybe to infiltrate or something. Because we don't see, when we see her later, and we will, she doesn't have a scratch on her.
No.
Which is kind of weird. So I'm thinking they like infected her to get like for her to lead them to them or something.
Okay.
I don't know, because I'm just doing out logic here, because these zombies ain't stupid.
Yeah.
So maybe I thought like maybe they would have like a like bait, or you know, that's just kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, how come they didn't eat her brains? Because they don't. Anyway. So, they run off. Now, the punkers kind of don't really know what to do. Now, the nerdy guy and the other girl who I don't even think they say her name in the fucking movie.
I don't think so. I think she has a name in the ending credits.
In the credits, she does.
But they don't actually say it during the movie.
But the credits are so badass, you can't help but watch them because these are the credits that show clips of the movie and stuff. And, and it's just got that It's Time to Party song. So you're just like, rip rolling and rocking. Speaking of music, what were we doing?
I don't know. We were just having a good time.
We were. We should get some music going here again, though. Where is my music?
Lately setting the scene.
Right. Oh, yeah. Thanks, dude. Come on. I'm doing my best. Hey, man, we got new equipment. I'm excited about this, movie, everything else. The paramedics actually now are leaving, right? And when they're leaving, they're like, have you ever seen anything like it? This and that. And they're in the van. They turn on the lights, and there's an army. There's a horde right outside the car that they didn't see because they were kind of busy, whatever. One thing that kind of bothered me, though, and this just kind of occurred to me, don't you think you would smell it?
I feel like you should have. Yeah.
Just a little bit. Now, maybe the rain kind of... Also, too, here's another thing. The acid rain didn't bother them. I know the rain does subside. I don't know if it's at this scene, but I'm pretty sure it's still...
No, because they're still wearing
the raincoats.
The raincoats. Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I was thinking, too. So these guys get wrecked by this horde, right? They're they're fucked. And then one of the zombies goes, send more paramedics. Right? Which is going to be like one of this movie's comic relief moments. And they do it again later, which is pretty funny. So as the punkers, they split up, right? Spider and Tina and the other nameless dude, they bunker down. They go over to the church, the funeral home, right? With Frankie and Ernie and Freddie, right? And this is where Tina is reunited with Frankie.
Right.
Now, Frankie at this point, now they haven't really moved, but Freddie gets up to like go throw up or something, and they have to kind of go like tackle him and set him down. And they're all in pain now. Now like they're just shivering and kind of like, moaning. Like they're not having a good time. And then Tina's just like, oh, Frankie, and she's like, got his head in her lap and whatnot. And they're like, looking out the window, seeing all these, zombies eating these paramedics because more paramedics show up and they're like, what's going on? And then they just get wrecked. Immediately.
Yeah.
There's not even
no chance
in hell. Right. So when this happens, they just like, all right, let's board up this house.
Yeah.
And we're going to call the cops.
And it was your classic 80s like montage moment with them like hammering nails and everything. Yeah.
It's a good montage. I like to see a house being boarded up montage style. Because that way, then there's no suspension of disbelief where I'm like, hey, they didn't get that window. So, yeah, they're doing that. They're boarding everything up. And now one would think someone could have called the cops while they were boarding up that window. That really doesn't matter. Anyway, it's inconsequential to this movie, seeing how the events that are about to occur, right? So, then while they're boarding things up, the random punker dude who I don't even think has a line in this, he gets attacked by like a zombie, and they're like, it's a female zombie, and they're hitting it, and they rip off her spine from the pelvis.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what? I think if I press this button...
Freddie?
I can finally see one thing. And one thing only that can leave this horrible suffering.
What, Freddie? What?
Live.
away with Freddy Tom.
He's not Freddy.
Shut up! Micah, shut up! Shit, he's trying to get out. Get him in, come on.
So, I pulled this clip, and I pulled the clip right before it instead of the wrong one. So I pulled the wrong one, but this does happen. But let's fast forward, let's rewind a little bit. That thing going brains. So right before this is what happens when you lose all your information and you try to get it all back.
Yeah.
So right before that thing yelling brains, let's just rewind like one scene.
Mm-hmm.
They capture that zombie girl. Right. And they have her, because she's only like half her body, so she's easy to subdue.
Yeah.
They poke her with, I forgot exactly the name of it, but it's a manhole pry bar.
Okay.
So they poke her with it, like they impale her with it. They put it onto a gurney and they tie it down.
It's the embalming table.
Yeah, exactly. The embalming table. And they're like interrogating it. And they're like, why do you eat us? And she goes, not people, just brains. It makes the pain go away.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait a minute. So it hurts being dead? She goes, it's like constant pain. The only thing that relieves it is brains.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives it a make sense seeing how they're sentient in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like even if they're old and rotten, they still kind of like have the ability to feel pain. Because even like the ones that are barely skeletons still feel pain,
Which is intriguing.
Very intriguing. So I don't know. Maybe there's still like, they say your mammalian brain, your reptile brain, it's at the very center, like where your brain meets your spine. Maybe that's the last thing to rot away. I don't know.
That makes sense.
So now we just heard Freddy freak out because what happens is while this is happening, they're like, we need to move Freddy and Frankie somewhere safe because we don't want them to turn. Right? So they bring them into the church and lock them in, and that's when that scene happens.
Yeah, and Tina refuses to leave.
She wants to stay with Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just sitting there screaming on the ground, and then he's like, oh, I figured it out. Brains. It's your brains, sweetie. I want them. So then the crew like figures out something's amiss right away when they hear the yelling. So they let her out, they fight, and then they go back in that room, and that's when that girl's screaming brains.
Yeah.
So just to catch us up. Now, I don't know if the cops come, because remember there's one cop car that comes, I don't know if it's before the scene or after the scene.
I think it's just after.
Just after?
Yeah.
And they get eliminated in minutes. Like, not even minutes, seconds. Like, the cops show up and they're like, rah, and they're gone. Right? And then they go,
send more cops.
Right.
So now they're sitting in there, they're trying to figure out what the fuck to do. And more police are going to be on their way. And it's just a matter of moments, and they kind of devise a plan. They're like, okay, what if we, we need to get out of here. We can't be stuck in here because it's just a matter of time for the breaking in, and we're fucked. You know? And we only have one crematorium. It's the only way to burn them. What are we gonna do? Kill each one individually and burn them?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. They even say that like, well, we could burn them. And then Ernie has some chloric acid, and he's like, well, this will kill anything. It eats through anything.
Yeah.
So then they open back up the door and throw some on Frankie, and even though it burns him, it's just not enough.
No, it blinds him, but it's not enough to like do anything. Really.
Yeah, I mean, all you're gonna do, basically, you just piss him off and have him feel some pain. And now they really, really don't know what to do. But then the other cops arrive, and the cops are stopped by a zombie cop.
Yeah,
wearing a zombie hat, and he's like waving the flashlight thing around. Like,
like directing a plane.
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, and then the cops stop, and then they're eliminated in seconds.
They get swarmed by the zombies. Yeah,
but we see a chopper overhead, and it's looking right with its light, and it's witnessing all these. And we get a really cool pan shot too of all these like zombies just like in this muddied like pool, just killing these cops like helicopter view. It's a really cool shot, and the helicopter's like, fuck this, I'm out. So now, if I'm not mistaken, I have my notes right now, but I'm just going off memory right now because, this is about right. So now we see Trash, and she's back.
Yeah.
And she looks like Ziggy Stardust. She's got like red hair, all pale, white, nude body, and she just sees a homeless person. The homeless person doesn't know what to think because he's like, a naked woman? And then she just like bites right into him, and she's like, now, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, is Tarman the main zombie or is she the main zombie? Because she kind of seems to be like the zombie leader. She's kind of like,
it's like they turned her into like the zombie queen.
Yeah, exactly. And so really, want some more?
Sure.
Okay. So, she attacks him, kills him, and then joins the horde.
Right.
Now, after the second set of the reinforcements of police are eliminated, it's clear no one's coming. And in fact, you see Trash and a bunch of the horde just start mowing through the barricades because now police are setting up barricades like, we're containing this.
Yeah.
You know?
So before that, though, they're like, we got to get out of here. Nobody else is going to come save us.
We need to steal a car. Get out.
Yeah, they need to steal a car. So they notice that one of the cop cars is still running out front. So Spider and Bert decide, okay, we're going to run and get to the cop car. We'll bring it back to get Tina and Ernie.
Mm-hmm.
And in the course of trying to do that, the cop car gets swarmed.
Yes.
They end up just taking off and leaving Tina and Ernie to fend for themselves. And they end up crashing
into Unita.
Yes. Yeah.
So now Ernie is like, I'm not going to let these guys eat you. So he goes up into the crawl space. They get a ladder, and he takes Tina up into like this attic crawl space area, and then barricades it, right, and kicks down the ladder. And this is like one of the creepiest things. Is Freddy's just like, come on, baby, I just want to eat your brains, and he's sitting there taunting. And it's like a really creepy scene. And you see Ernie looking at the gun like, uh-oh, is he going to kill her and then himself kind of thing? But then we see Freddy. Now, we mentioned that Freddy knows how to use the crematorium. So he fires it up, and he takes off his wedding ring and puts it on the little... the
on-off switch.
The on-off switch. He had the incinerator. And he says a prayer. He gets in, he shuts the door, and kills himself. Now, in the original script, Ernie was supposed to wander around by himself, trying not to eat anybody, just alone and crying and staring at the moon. And then he bumps into Trash, and then I think Trash kills him.
Oh.
But, because he refuses to be, like, part of the horde.
Right.
But the actor said, what would be better is if, like, maybe we could show that they're actually sentient enough to have some kind of morals and ethics.
Oh, okay.
But that's what he told everybody. The real reason why is he didn't want to run around in the rain for 6 more hours filming. That's really what he said. He goes, everyone thought I was brilliant, but really I was just being lazy. Which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
So now that they're at Unita, they catch up with the other punker guys, and they're like, there's something down there. They're pointing at the basement. And Ernie is like, I give zero fucks right now.
Yeah.
Like, let that thing out. So they let it out, and Tarman comes over, no longer as scary, seeing how everything they've been through, just fucking decaps it in one swing.
One swing, yeah.
Just see you, dude. Like, thanks for coming, FAFO. So now we get, like, some cutbacks to, we see the police just getting slaughtered that are trying to contain the area.
Because they get to the phone in the basement and call the cops for help. And while on the phone with the cops, the zombies storm out into the street and just mow right through them.
Yeah.
They can't stop them at all.
Yeah, nothing doing. It's like, it's like, it's what, 10-1, something like it's
easily
easy. Yeah. And of course, we have Trash, who's just kind of like power walking. She's like the zombie queen.
Yeah.
And she, like, I don't know if you noticed that, but when she kills, if you actually play it slow motion or stop it, they gave her like a fake appendage. So
so it looks like her jaw is like huge. Yeah.
It's really cool effect, and I didn't notice it until I rewatched it. But yeah, her jaw like hyperextends, kind of like a snake.
Yeah.
Trying to, like a python trying to eat like something, right? So then they're like, not Ernie, sorry. Damn it. Bert, thank you. We see Bert kind of put down the phone slowly, like, shit.
Yeah, like nobody's coming.
Nobody's coming. And then we cut back to Ernie and Tina and Frankie is just like, Freddy is just pounding on the
hatch to
yeah, exactly,
to the attic,
to the attic, and it's just a matter of time, you know. Because he's pounding and they have a piece of wood there, but it's not really holding. So he gets his pistol and he's holding her tight, and you're like, all right, he's gonna shoot her and shoot himself.
Yeah,
because better that than getting attacked and having your brains eaten, right? At least you go out with some dignity. And here's one thing I was wondering though: do you think if they would have shot themselves, Freddy would have still eat their brains, or do they? Because they have to be live brains, right?
I think they prefer live brains,
but they'd probably eat regular brains.
He'd probably still eat their brains,
but not like zombies been dead for a while.
No,
because their brains are all like mush.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, okay. Just curious what your theory is with the brains there. So anyway, then they finally call the number on the side.
Right.
He looks down. He's like, well, not much else we could do. So remember, if you're in a trioxin 245 spill or accident, or you see any zombies, call 1-800-484-8000. That's 1-800-484-8. We should have made a fake ad for that. That would have been cool. You know what? Never too late. So they call it, and it goes to the colonel that we see in the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. And, of course, he gets out of bed. Now, here's something that I thought was hilarious in this movie. And then someone pointed out to me, and I'm like, oh, my God, you are so right. Notice in movies, whenever anyone gets a call at night, before answering the phone, they turn on the light.
Yeah.
That never happens in real life.
No.
You always answer the phone, then turn on the light.
Then turn on the light, yeah.
So, but it makes sense in this because when he gets to the phone call, he like jumps up and then like grabs a pen and paper and he's like, "Why didn't you call us before? You know, this, that, and the other. Okay, where did you find it?"
Like one thing I noticed is he was abnormally calm during the whole phone conversation. He's like, "Okay, like why didn't you call us before?" "Oh, okay, that's understandable." Like, it was just like, really, bro? Like,
well, I think it's because A, military decorum, and B, he's been looking for this for 20 years, and maybe it's just like, oh, Jesus Christ, finally.
Okay.
But I'm with you, though. I would think he'd be a little bit more excited or at least emotionally invested.
Exactly. A little bit more emotion in there somewhere.
Something, right? Because it really isn't. It's just like, you know, like not taking an order necessarily, but kind of like, you know, if you were to call your boss in sick to work, like a little disappointed, but really not invested.
Right.
You know, just like, all right, cool. Should have called me earlier, but thanks.
Yeah.
All right, bye. All right. And then he goes over to his liquor cabinet, opens up his little missile silo.
Yeah.
Types in the coordinates or whatever, and then we see from the other side of America this giant.
Yeah, it's like 130 miles away.
No, it's 1,300 miles away.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the thousands.
Okay.
So, and you see this warhead getting like loaded in. It's kind of a cheesy effect now when you can tell it's a miniature.
You're right. But still,
it's for its time. I mean, you know, still looks really good. And we see the warhead shoot, and just like the ending of every Resident Evil movie / video game, they nuke the site.
Yeah.
But dun. Right before it hits, though, Freddy busts open the door.
Yeah,
and they were
about
to
does like
get
a freeze frame.
Yeah, I love those 80s freeze frames. And 70s did it a lot, too.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they all get nuked. Now, luckily, I read this in Our Dark Universe. It's a page I follow on Instagram.
Okay.
If a nuclear blast happens, you don't even realize you're dead. Like, you die in like way quicker than your brain even knows. In your brain, your synapses fire pretty fucking quick.
Yeah.
That's why you have good someone is to throw a ball at you, even if you didn't aware of it, and you just catch it in your periph, you'll at least move or you'll try to catch it.
Yeah.
It kills you that fast. So luckily, our heroes didn't feel any pain.
Yeah.
But it's really all for naught, because after it blows up, we see the rain.
We see the smoke just like we did before.
Yeah.
And then it starts to thunder and lightning, and then it starts to rain.
Yep. And then we get our credits and we get some badass music, and that's Return of the Living Dead.
And we get the skeleton again popping out.
With the eyeballs. Yeah. Such a great ending. Did you ever see the sequel?
No, I haven't, but I am now.
Number 2 sucks.
I'm sure it does, but I'm still going to watch it.
It is very... Okay.
It's part 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is still worth a watch.
Yeah.
Number 3, on the other hand, is fantastic.
Okay.
And it's on, if you have Shudder.
Yes.
It's on Shudder. Return of the Living Dead Part 3. It is a fantastic movie. At least it was on Shudder. I don't know if it still is. It probably is, though. But that movie is a zombie movie that's Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So in that movie, the government actually have the trioxin, and when Julie is, I covered the movie if you want to listen to the whole thing, but basically, boy loves girl dies in tragic accident when she's feeling up his crotch on a motorcycle, and she goes flying off and hits like a telephone pole.
Horny boy wants to get that again,
so he brings her back to
reanimates
life.
her.
Yeah, and then she is like the trash.
Okay.
She's the zombie queen, and yes, she is pale and has red hair. I see a theme.
Yeah, there's definitely naked, pale, red hair. All right.
Yeah.
Somebody's got a type.
But I will tell you this, Julie's hot as fuck.
Trash is pretty hot.
Dude, Julie gives her a run for her money. Dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and there we go. Shit, did I leave anything out? I know I kind of skipped around a little bit, but...
No, I think we got a pretty good deep dive on that one.
Let me tell you one thing in number 2. In Return of the Living Dead, there is a scene in Return of the Living Dead number 2 where they just jump the shark completely, and they reenact Thriller.
Oh, God.
Michael Jackson and all.
Oh, really?
But they changed the rule for number 2. You could kill him by electrifying him. It's really dumb.
Okay.
It's so bad. But worth a watch. Yes. That's a cinema court right there. That is not like we're going to give this a real... And I think like it is in people's list of the top worst sequels ever made. Because I think it got something like 18% or 20%.
I think we should come up with a new segment called Bottom of the Barrel.
Ooh, I like your play on words there. It's very Shrevenant. So anyway, man, let's end it. We're just about at an hour. Perfect timing.
Okay.
So from all of us here at the Knife Party Podcast, remember to be kind and rewind. And I don't know, do you have a tagline?
No, I haven't got one yet.
Okay, but we'll work on that.
We'll work on that. Yeah.
Okay, well, in the meantime, I got to return some videotapes.
All right.